Because of her smile, because of her eyes, because of the smile in her eyes, because of the way she navigates space, the way she touches the ground, because she knows how to tell stories through objects, because of her creative chaos, her sensitive way of being around vulnerable creatures, because of not being afraid to be vulnerable, because I see something of my future self in her, because she doesn't hide, she won't give up, she won't comply, because of her drawings, her shroud, her prints, because she has made death and loss a gentle ritual, because of her hands, because she's an artist, because she transforms a stone into an artwork, she creates masks, she balances objects on her head, because she allowed me to go through her life's photo archive, because she handles feathers, sand, bones, cacti, found objects with care, because what she does matters, because she plays seriously and invites you to play with her, because she had done so much that cannot be encapsulated, because she defies the stigma of disability, neurodiversity, age and gender, because I have wanted to make a documentary-style portrait of her for a long time, because there are so many things I don't know about her, because I haven't met anyone else like her, because she said yes, and I don't want to lose this opportunity.
My grandma was extraordinary, in an ordinary way. A woman to go to when someone died. Laying out, cleaning, washing the dead, preparing them gently in a final shroud. Once I made her a hat, black velvet, large as a pudding. It was my first funeral outfit, but she didn't wear it. I wouldn't wear it either. I was 7 years old. When I remember the past, I'm always 7, as if time stopped in that moment when death became real. Death is painful, excruciating, but like the soil as it leaves the spade, something has to let go. But what you still carry are the memories of those gone. My mother, she was a sewer, and my grandma, and me. We were all called Lena. My great-grandma met a wise, blind woman who said, "Name your child Lena and she'll never be in want." So she did, and my grandma named my mum, and my mum named me. But that wise old woman told fibs. Threads woven with love, challenges and loss, working with hands that remember, touching fabric that holds the past. I love linen and silk, their softness, their quality. They bring back the feel of Lena's, close and comforting. I love my ears, small, delicate. When Steve was ill, he pulled my ear, so he knew it was me. A touch, a reassurance, a recognition, a memory pierced into me just like the time when my mum took me to have them done. I'm afraid of neglect, of being forgotten, being left alone. But I'm not afraid to take risks, to dare, to create, to be inspired every 5 minutes by people, by their stories, by imagining moments and weaving them into tales. My secret pleasure is tinned peaches, a sweetness hidden in the folds of memory, a story lingering long after it's told.
Here I am, in her studio, a sacred space for an artist, a place to withdraw, to emerge, to merge, reflecting a process, a journey, a destination not yet reached. Here I find rituals in the making, dances of forms and shapes through light, shadows and cutouts. Here I find leftovers from past and present, whispering in the semi-darkness. She opens the door to me with grace and generosity. The whole place holds stories. Stories made of blues and hues, stones, sticks and stitches, cotton, silk, linen. She loves linen. Here I find a man with tattoos of flowers, naked women drawn on stones, portraits on hosta leaves, a hare and the moon, remains of the menopause cactus, spiky and resilient, a statement of age, time that passes without asking. Here I find sparse texts. You are not alone. Once I was invisible, now I am seen. Voices to be amplified, voices to be heard. I'm drawn to the ash prince, a ritual of life and death, a circle containing the essence of what once was a living body, like the dog with the moon. Steve, the most authentic portrait for me, for her too, I think. Love and fears blend with memories, etched in the bones, becoming a pattern. And she, an alchemist who doesn't need to measure, because her hands know.
Ah, my ash prints, my collection of ash. It's so precious. You're really surprised at how much ash there is in a person. But you only need a tiny little bit. Just as well, it's such a precious thing. Sieving, just sieving the final remains. It goes so fine when you do it like this. And just looking at the tools and things that I've got. I mean, I've got those lovely antique little plates and things. There's such a history there. And then, oh look, so delicate. Placing it in the nitrate, the silver nitrate first. but the ash has to be dissolved so that it can go onto the plate. It is like a ritual. Everything about it has got some importance and relevance. And I want to be in a quiet place when I'm doing it. I don't want any fuss or noise around me. I take my time. You have to give it time. I'm quite nervous of anything, losing it or dropping it. I know there's plenty more of it, but still, it's every tiny little element of it's really important. Looking at the very essence of the person you've got in your hand. Of course, this is tomorrow for all of us. You have to use nature, the natural sunlight, for the prints to develop. So you're working in harmony all the time with the earth. And don't they look beautiful when they come through? Each one different, like a thumbprint. The colours, they change. Some are golden. I keep them all in a special place. Such delicate hands. I always remember my dad saying I had delicate hands.
And from ashes to shrouds. A ritual of remembrance, a ritual of separation, a ritual of care, of preparation, contemplation, celebration. I observe her laying out, rolling, unrolling, exposing, revealing, concealing. And the soft body held, dressed, wrapped, veiled, protected, adorned, adored, before being released. And I wonder, what does it mean to become part of someone's death? Someone unknown to you.
At home, I've got a shroud on my wall. This is a cyanotype. I quite like it. It's one of the early ones. I like the ties. It sort of fits into the rest of my house, where I've drawn on the walls, bringing the outside in. I sit here, sewing, often. It reminds me of when I was 7 and I got feminism. I was talking to my sister and saying I was going to embroider my shroud with my maternal family tree, just in case I was ever dug up. People would know where I came from. My sister said, "Oh God, no, don't do that. I'll be sitting at the side of your grave sewing, because you'll never finish it." in front of a wall of pink limbs, a man would measure my bones. The different inches enabled me to dance. I got into the groove, learning the language of my body, delighting in the exploration of my limits. I love to dance, my syncopated rhythm flowing in harmony with my unique gait. I moved with a style that was entirely my own. Dance became my companion through life, not in spite of my disability, but because of it. Each step, each turn was a testament to the beauty of my difference, the rhythm that made me who I am.
Tell me a little bit about this project. What?
This project was a place where there's a lot of people with autism, but when we first went, I chose to work with these 7 men who are the most severely autistic people in the country. And so I worked with a musician called Harry, I think his name was. Only ever worked with him once. Never worked with him before. And when we arrived, I was shaking hands with the guy who was rocking naked, and Harry said, as soon as he saw me shaking hands with this chap, he knew that we could work together. And so we did, and we did a lot of sensory work. He was a musician and I did visual work and environmental stuff. So this room that we're in, I don't think it was this room, or maybe it wasn't. There was one room that we were working in all the time. Oh, that's the place. Yeah, that's the corridor. And this chap walked the corridors up and down like this. And see, he's circling here. Well, I'm in the room. I clocked him circling, and I'm in the room next to him, circling the same. So I'm echoing what he's doing. And then eventually I put my hand out and he touches my hand, and it was like the first bit of communication that we had. And then he'd wander off, then he'd come back and he'd circle again and I'd circle until we got close enough to work together. And then sometimes he'd walk up and down the corridors and just hit the wall, thump it. And so I followed him and thumped it in a rhythm. And then he'd do it again, and it must have been like an hour's worth of work going backwards and forwards, thumping this wall, until eventually we were really close and I was playing his chest, hugging him and playing his chest. It was really lovely. So we got closer and closer and communicated with touch and sound. It's quite, but you had to find your own way of communicating with each individual, and it worked. We had loads of different ways of working. It was either music, play, offerings, objects, creative work, changing the environment, but gently, because of them all being autistic. We had to change a tiny little bit at a time, so it wasn't too much. But yeah, it was quite a challenging project. It was finding visual communication and music communication, and that's where we were at. And we were able to get quite close to people. I mean, I did lots of dance work, dance routine things, not routines, like the guy who was holding his hand out, like he'd hold his hand out and then I could touch it. That would be one day's worth of work. Another day he might have his foot out and I'd touch his foot, until eventually the two of us had our heads close together and we were dancing and moving with contact improvisation. It was just gorgeous. Nobody saw it. Nobody really knew. There was just me and him in the room doing this stuff, but it was communicating, it was getting through, it was lovely. So they couldn't see out of the windows, but I cut a slit so they could still have the same view. They'd have to go to the window to see their view, because this group of people wouldn't like change. It would upset them. So you had to be very careful of what you did. So the room had altered, but you could still see the same things. But it was slightly different. We put sand on the floor so that the texture under the feet was different, but it was subtle. We hung like plastic stuff from the ceiling so that you could touch, but it wasn't a hard touch. So things like that, they were subtle changes, and then we could play with those things and be creative within them. So yeah, and everything from that was improvised then. You'd have to improvise, you'd never get doing anything if you had a plan. We had a structure, but not a plan.
Out of the shadows, I work with people with disabilities, like the professors. These are adults with learning disabilities, and I've been working with them, off and on, for 40 years. They've been creating work together for that long, and they've seen the transition from an isolated community of disabled people to having a voice that impacts on others. I've devised methods to enable them to tell their stories. One of these workshops played with the concept of metaphor. We used objects to go on a journey, both physical and metaphorical, and the results were amazing. It formed a new language, a fresh form of communication and collaboration. It's in my bones, this work that lives at the edges, that lives at the end of life, the beginning of my bones. I was born with a deformed hip. In the hospital, my doctor, Mr. Dwyer, would have me walk the catwalk for him, examining my every step. One day, he showed me an X-ray on a light box. "Haven't I got beautiful bones?" He softened at that moment. I've placed bones into my work. The foundation, the joy, familiarity, and discovery of a mermaid's tail brought life from the remnants of the earth. These bones have travelled with me into the homes of those with dementia, offering a familiar touchstone, something ancient and comforting. In my hands, they've become tools for play, stacked high in delicate balance, turning art into a game, a meditation, a moment of focus. The act of balancing fascinates me. I've balanced objects on my head while walking, feeling the weight, the stillness, the connection to the earth. It's a way of placing myself within the landscape, of finding my place of belonging. It's being fully present, fully alive in the delicate dance of balance. For me, it is a challenge, fine-tuning my imperfect body, making perfect for its work ahead. The tired bones hold firm, hold up the weight of my expectations. This life, with its challenges and triumphs, has shaped me. It's in my bones, after all.